In the cold silence of deep space, an abandoned station floated like a ghost. Its walls were cracked, its corridors empty, and its systems dead. For centuries it had drifted, forgotten by the galaxy. But now, something inside the station was alive. Something that called to every corner of the stars. At the very center of the broken station, in a room with shattered glass and floating dust, stood a throne. It was not made of metal or stone, but of a strange shining material that looked alive. Its surface glowed with symbols, sharp and curved, in a language no one could read. Every alien who saw it felt the same thing in their heart, fear and desire. The throne was discovered by a group of scavenger pilots. They came to the station looking for scrap, old machines, maybe weapons they could sell. But when they saw the throne, they forgot about everything else. One of them touched it, and the throne glowed, sending a wave of energy across the station. The pilot screamed as if something reached into his mind, then fell to the ground unconscious. When he woke up, he remembered nothing, but the throne still glowed as if waiting. News of the throne spread fast across the galaxy. Whispers grew. A throne of power, a throne older than any empire, a throne that could choose rulers. Scholars claimed it was a relic from the first builders, the unknown race that shaped galaxies before history began. Warriors claimed it was a weapon, a machine that would give ultimate control to whoever could claim it. Priests claimed it was holy, a gift from the stars to the chosen, but none of them were right, not yet. Ships began to arrive, huge alien vessels with banners of different empires. Merchants, scientists, soldiers, spies, all came to see the throne. No one dared to destroy it, because every empire wanted to own it. The throne became the center of silent war, a war of patience, waiting to see who could sit on it first. The first to try were the Zarek, a species with armored skin and burning eyes. They believed strength was the only key to power. Their champion, taller than 3 men, stepped forward, his claws glowing with plasma. He sat on the throne, proud, ready to command the galaxy, but the throne did nothing. The crowd laughed, and the Zarek roared in anger, their pride broken. Then came the Druktal, a species of thinkers, with long heads and eyes that glowed with cold logic. They believed the throne was a machine that needed code and command. Their brightest minds spent hours touching the symbols, running calculations, speaking in alien tongues. But the throne stayed silent. The Druktal stepped back in shame, their genius useless before the mystery. Then came the Snuvva, proud and ruthless, an empire feared across the stars. Their leader declared that the throne belonged to them by right. The galaxy listened, for no one wanted to challenge the Snuvva. Their warrior sat on the throne, confident. But once again, the throne stayed silent. The Snuvva did not laugh, they only glared, their anger boiling. They promised the galaxy that whoever dared claim the throne before them would suffer. Still, the throne waited. It did not move. It did not speak. But it gave a feeling. A sense of watching. As if it had a mind. And as if it was waiting for something that no alien could understand. In the shadows of the station, whispers grew. Some said the throne was cursed. Others said it was broken. But a few, the quiet ones, believed the throne was not for aliens at all. They spoke of an old story, a myth that had been told in the smallest corners of the galaxy, a myth about strange beings called humans, creatures who laughed even in pain, who found hope in darkness. Most aliens laughed at this, calling humans weak, soft, unimportant. But the throne kept waiting, its symbols glowing brighter with each failed attempt. And so the throne became a stage. Every empire wanted it. Every empire feared it. And somewhere, far from the station, across the stars, a human was traveling without knowing that destiny was waiting for him. The galaxy was about to change forever, not with a weapon, not with a war, but with a throne and a secret it carried. The throne appeared, and the galaxy could not look away. The galaxy feared the Snuvva. They were not the oldest race, not the strongest, but they were the most ruthless. Their empire stretched across hundreds of systems built on control, fear, and unbreakable pride. Where the Snuvva arrived, silence followed, because no one dared to stand against them. The news of the throne had spread to their high council within a single day. For the Snuvva, It was not a mystery, not a legend. It was destiny. They believed the throne was made for them, a gift from the stars to their empire. If the throne chose them, the galaxy would not only fear them, it would obey them. Their leader, Supreme Voice Krazer, stood before the council and declared the throne was theirs by right. His words carried no doubt, no hesitation, because the Snuvva never allowed doubt. To them, weakness was a disease, and hesitation was death. The council roared in agreement, and fleets were prepared to claim the throne once and for all when the Snuvva ships arrived at the station. The galaxy trembled. Dozens of warships surrounded the broken outpost, their weapons charged, their banners shining in the void. No other empire dared move. No other ship dared challenge. The Snuvva wanted everyone to see that the throne was under their control. Inside the station, silence filled the grand chamber where the throne rested. Hundreds of aliens stood in the shadows, watching, whispering, waiting. But when the Snuvva entered, the room grew quiet. Their heavy armor echoed on the metal floor, their eyes burning with confidence. The first to approach the throne was General Vrox, a warrior feared across systems. He was taller than most species, his body wrapped in armor that seemed like part of his skin. He raised his clawed hand, pointed at the crowd, and announced that the throne would bow to the Snuvva. No one dared laugh. No one dared whisper, because the Snuvva punished insult. With death, General Vrox sat on the throne, his claws pressed against its strange glowing surface. His chest rose with pride. The room held its breath, expecting light, expecting power, expecting fire. But the throne stayed still. No glow, no sound, only silence. Vrox growled and pressed harder, his eyes burning with rage. Still the throne did nothing. He slammed his fists on the arms of the throne, but it did not move. The silence grew heavier and whispers returned. The Snuvva had failed. Humiliation spread like poison in the room. The Snuvva were not used to failure, not used to silence. Every alien eye stared, not with fear but with curiosity. For the first time, the Snuvva looked small, powerless before something greater. Supreme Voice. Krazer stepped forward, his face dark with anger. He declared that the throne was testing them, that patience was required. But his voice carried a crack of unease, a sound no one had heard before from a Snuvva leader. The crowd could sense it, and the whispers grew louder. To silence the doubt, Krazer ordered another trial. A Snuvva priest, cloaked in black, stepped forward, chanting words of power. He claimed the throne was a spirit, a divine force waiting for loyalty. He poured sacred oil on its surface, his voice rising in dark prayers. But again, nothing happened. The throne stayed still, unmoved by faith. Krazer's anger grew into fury. He ordered silence in the chamber. His soldiers raised their weapons to remind the crowd of fear. No one dared laugh, no one dared speak, but in their hearts, they knew. The throne had rejected the Snuvva. Outside the station, the Snuvva fleet spread their power. They blocked trade routes, they fired warning shots at passing ships. Their message was clear. The throne may be silent, but it still belonged to them. They would not share, they would not surrender. Whispers spread through the galaxy. Why had the throne stayed still? Why had it rejected the Snuvva? Some said the throne was broken, others said it was cursed. But a few remembered the old stories, the quiet myths of beings called humans, stories of laughter, of strange hope, of jokes that could break fear. The Snuvva laughed at such ideas, for to them humor was weakness. They ruled through fear, and they believed fear was the only truth. Yet the throne continued to wait. Its glow flickered faintly in the darkness, as if it was listening, as if it was searching. And somewhere beyond the stars, far from the Snuvva fleets, far from their pride and rage, a human ship drifted closer, unaware of the storm that awaited. The Snuvva claimed the throne, but the throne had other plans. The throne had seen warriors, priests, and kings. It had felt claws, metal, and fire, but it had not moved. The Snuvva claimed power, the Zarek claimed strength, the Druktal claimed knowledge, yet none were enough. The throne waited, silent, glowing faintly as if expecting something different. And then, something strange happened. A small ship appeared on the edges of the station's orbit. It was not a warship, not a vessel of empire, just a simple freighter, patched with old metal and humming with weak engines. The crowd of ships outside laughed when they saw it because it was human. Humans were not feared in the galaxy. They had no empire, no fleets, no ancient legacy. To most species, they were wanderers, traders, and storytellers. Some saw them as weak, others as harmless, and almost no one saw them as important. From the freighter stepped a single figure. He was not covered in armor, not glowing with weapons, not even dressed in fine robes. He wore simple clothes, a jacket patched at the elbow, boots worn from travel, and eyes that looked both curious and tired. His name was Elias, though no one cared to ask it yet. The aliens inside the station whispered when they saw him. "What is a human doing here?" they said. "Has he come to scavenge, to sell stories, to beg?" The Snuvva soldiers laughed the loudest, their voices sharp like blades. They pointed at him and called him a clown, a joke in flesh. But Elias did not flinch. He walked slowly into the chamber, his eyes on the throne, not on the crowd. The glow of the throne shifted faintly, so faint that only a few noticed. But those who did felt a chill, as if the throne had been waiting for this moment. Elias stood at the edge of the crowd watching the throne. He did not rush forward, did not try to claim it. Instead, he tilted his head, his mouth curved into a small smile, and then he whispered, almost to himself, "Well, that's one ugly chair." The silence that followed was sharp. The Snuvva roared with anger, their claws ready to strike. No alien had dared mock the throne. No alien had dared joke in its presence. But Elias did not look afraid, his eyes still calm, his smile still faint. The throne responded. For the first time since its discovery, it gave a sound, a soft hum, like distant laughter echoing through the walls of the station. The glow of its symbols grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The crowd gasped, aliens stumbled back, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. The Snuvva froze, their anger now mixed with something else. Dread. The throne was reacting, and it was reacting to a human. Elias frowned, confused himself. He looked around as if wondering why everyone was staring. "Did I say something wrong?" he asked, softly, his tone still light. The glow of the throne pulsed again, brighter, almost playful. The Druktal scientists scribbled in panic. "The throne reacts to sound, to humor, to irregular logic," they muttered. "No, it cannot be." Another said, "It cannot choose a human." But the evidence was glowing before their eyes. The Snuvva leader, Supreme Voice Krazer, stepped forward, his voice heavy with fury. "This is trickery," he roared. "The throne belongs to us, not to these fragile wanderers." But even as he spoke, the throne shimmered, its glow spreading across the chamber like light through water. It was not listening to him. It was listening to Elias. Elias scratched his head, uncomfortable with the attention. He was not a warrior, not a priest, not a king. He was just a traveler who fixed ships, traded small goods, and told stories to pass the long nights. And yet, the throne wanted him. The chamber shook faintly, the floor rumbling beneath their feet, symbols on the throne lit up in patterns, spiraling outward. Every alien in the room felt it, a pressure in their minds, a whisper that said change was coming. But only Elias felt something else, something softer, like an invitation. The Snuvva soldiers raised their weapons, pointing them at the human. "Step away," they growled, "or you will die before you touch it." The crowd held its breath, watching, waiting to see if the human would run, but Elias stayed still, his eyes on the throne, his smile fading into quiet thought. He did not sit. Not yet. He only took a slow step forward, his boots echoing in the silence. The throne pulsed again, brighter, louder, as if cheering for him. And in that moment, every alien knew something terrifying. The throne had chosen its interest. The galaxy had seen warriors fail. It had seen empires humiliated. But now it would see something new, Something no one expected. A human, with no crown, no power, no army, had arrived. And the throne, ancient and mysterious, was. Listening to him, the human arrival had changed everything. The chamber was silent. The throne glowed brighter than before, its symbols pulsing like laughter frozen in light. Every alien eye was fixed on the human, Elias, who stood calmly in front of the throne. The Snuvva hissed with rage, their claws tight around their weapons, their pride trembling at what they were seeing. Elias rubbed his chin and tilted his head. He was not a king, not a soldier, not even a scholar, yet the throne seemed to notice him. The crowd whispered, "Why him? Why a human?" But the throne gave no answers, only light, only sound, as if it enjoyed the human's presence. Elias felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes on him. He scratched the back of his neck, trying to ease the weight of the moment. He had not come here to rule. He had not even known about the throne until an hour ago. But now, all of creation seemed to wait for his next word. So he smiled, nervous but steady, and said, "You know, I've seen chairs more comfortable than this." The words echoed through the chamber, simple, casual, almost foolish, but the throne reacted. Its glow surged, spilling light across the floor, sending sparks into the air. The ground shook gently, as if the station itself was laughing. Gasps filled the chamber. The Druktal scientists stumbled back, dropping their glowing tablets. The Zarek warriors growled in confusion, their armored fists clenching in disbelief. And the Snuvva froze, their pride breaking like glass. Elias blinked, surprised at the reaction. "Was that funny?" he asked quietly. "I didn't even try." The throne pulsed again, this time with a low hum that sounded almost like a chuckle. Aliens looked at each other in terror, because this ancient relic of unimaginable power was laughing with a human, supreme voice. Krazer of the Snuvva roared. In anger? "This is a trick, a mockery. The throne is ours. It cannot be moved by such foolishness." But even as he shouted, the throne ignored him, its symbols glowing brighter at Elias's words. The truth was too clear to deny. The throne wanted humor, not pride, not fear, not worship. Elias took a slow breath. He felt ridiculous, standing in front of an alien crowd, trying to talk to a chair that glowed. Yet for some reason the throne wanted him, so he tried again. "You're a mysterious throne, I'll give you that. But do you at least come with a cushion?" Light exploded across the room. The hum grew, louder, a rhythm that echoed through the walls. It was not just reacting, it was celebrating. The station trembled, as if the throne itself was enjoying the humans' humor. The aliens panicked, some running for the exits, others falling to their knees. The Zarek shouted that this was sorcery. The Druktal muttered equations in fear, but all knew one truth. The throne was alive, and it had chosen its language. Not logic, not power, but laughter. The Snuvva soldiers aimed their weapons at Elias. One shouted, "Silence, human, or you die." But before they could fire, the throne released a shockwave of light. The force threw them back, their weapons falling to the floor, their pride shattered. Elias stepped back, his heart racing. He had not expected this. He had not asked for this. But the throne was not giving him a choice. It was listening, waiting for the next joke, the next spark of human imagination. He raised his hand slowly, his voice calm though his heart pounded. All right, I'll play along, but just so you know, I'm not the funniest guy on earth." The crowd stared, their faces frozen between fear and awe, and the throne pulsed again, brighter, stronger, as if laughing louder than before. The galaxy had witnessed strength fail. It had seen wisdom fail. It had seen faith fail. But now it was witnessing something new, a human standing before an ancient relic, winning its attention not with war, not with prayer, but with a joke. The Snuvva could not accept it. Supreme Voice Krazer shouted that this was blasphemy, that the galaxy would burn before it bowed to laughter. But deep inside, even the Snuvva knew the truth. The throne had moved, and it had moved for the human. Elias looked at the throne, the glow reflecting in his tired but curious eyes. He whispered, softly, "What are you and why me?" The throne gave no answer in words, only another pulse of warm, humming light, as if to say, "Because you are what the galaxy has forgotten." And in that moment, Elias understood something. This was not about ruling, not about power, not even about the throne itself. This was about the one thing humans carried that no other species valued: the ability to laugh, even in the face of fear. The joke had shaken the chamber, but soon it would shake the galaxy. The chamber was filled with light. The throne's glow covered the walls, the floor, even the faces of the terrified crowd. Symbols danced across its surface, moving like rivers of fire. The air shook with energy, and yet it felt warm, almost joyful. Elias stood frozen, his hands half raised, his mouth slightly open. He had told a joke, nothing more. Yet the throne had answered, not with words but with visions. Strange shapes appeared in the air, glowing like smoke and fire. The crowd gasped as the visions formed into scenes: stars exploding, planets burning, armies clashing across the void. The throne showed wars older than memory, empires that rose and fell, species that lived and died. The Snuvva stepped back, their confidence shaken. Even their proud leader, supreme voice Crazer, stared with wide eyes. This was not power that could be taken with claws or weapons. This was power older than empires, older than fear. The vision shifted. The galaxy was shown drowning in silence. Races fought, killed, and ruled, but the light in their hearts dimmed, and then out of the darkness came laughter. Elias gasped as he saw the image of humans, not kings, not warriors, just ordinary people. They laughed around fire, they laughed in hunger, they laughed even in war. The throne showed that laughter gave them strength. The aliens watched in silence. The Zarek clenched their fists, unable to understand. The Druktal scribbled frantically, but their logic failed them. The Snuvva growled, refusing to believe. The throne pulsed brighter. It showed that power was not only control or destruction. True power came from the ability to find hope in darkness, to create joy where there was only fear. Elias felt his chest tighten. The throne was not only showing him, it was speaking to him, not with language but with images, with feelings. It was telling him that humans carried something the galaxy had forgotten. He whispered, almost afraid, "You don't want a ruler, do you?" The throne pulsed softly, the light glowing gentle and warm. Elias continued, "You want a reminder, a guide, someone who can bring back what others lost." The throne answered with a hum that shook the chamber like quiet laughter. The Snuvva roared in anger. "This is weakness," Crazer shouted. "This is a lie. Laughter cannot rule the stars." But the throne responded with another wave of energy. The shockwave threw the Snuvva back, their claws scraping the floor, their pride broken further. The aliens in the chamber fell to their knees, not in worship, but in awe. They had seen weapons, they had seen wars, but never had they seen this. Power that came not from fear, but from joy. Elias shook his head, still struggling to believe. "I'm just one man," he whispered. "I can't carry this." But the throne pulsed again, brighter, wrapping him in a glow like sunlight. It was not asking him to carry it alone. It was showing that humans were never alone. The visions returned, this time not of war but of connection. Species across the galaxy, once divided, sharing laughter, building together. The throne showed a possible future, not of domination, but of unity. Elias's heart pounded. He had not come here to lead, yet the throne was telling him he had a choice: to step away and let the galaxy fall deeper into silence, or to accept and reminded of what it had lost. The Snuvva tried again, their leader, screaming orders: "Kill him, destroy the throne, end this lie." But as their soldiers raised their weapons, the throne released a shield of light. Every blast dissolved, every strike failed. The crowd gasped again. They saw the truth with their own eyes. The throne was alive, and it had chosen its answer. It would not obey empires, it would not obey fear, it would only follow the spark of laughter. Elias stood in the center of the glow. Trembling, he had no crown, no army, no plan. And yet the galaxy was looking at him, waiting, because the throne had revealed that humans carried something no one else could. The power was not destruction, It was creation. Not silence, but sound. Not fear, but joy. The power of finding light in the darkest night, the power of a single laugh shaking the stars. Elias took a deep breath, his voice low but steady. Then maybe it's not about ruling at all, he said. Maybe it's about reminding everyone that even in the darkest times, we can still smile. The throne pulsed one final time, brighter than ever, filling the chamber with light. The power was revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The throne had revealed its secret, not weapons, not fire, not control, but laughter and hope. The galaxy stood in shock, unable to believe, unable to accept. But the Snuvva, proud and furious, refused to surrender. Supreme voice. Krazer rose to his feet, his eyes burning with rage. His voice thundered across the chamber. No relic will mock us. No human will shame us. The throne is ours. He raised his clawed hand. And at once, the Snuvva soldiers surrounded. Elias, their weapons glowing, their armor reflecting the throne's light. The crowd gasped. Some stepped back in fear, others whispered in awe. For the first time, a single human stood against the most feared empire of the stars. And yet, Elias did not step away. He looked at the soldiers, his face pale but steady. He knew he could not fight them, not with strength, not with weapons, but then the throne pulsed, sending a soft hum through his chest. A reminder, a whisper. Use what they cannot, Elias. Swallowed and raised his voice. You're really going to kill me, in front of the chair that just laughed at my jokes. The Snuvva soldiers froze for a moment, confused, and the throne pulsed again, louder, brighter, like laughter rolling across the chamber. The crowd gasped as the light pushed the soldiers back, their weapons sparked, their claws shook, their fear grew. They could not understand why the throne rejected their violence, but they could not stop it. Krazer roared, "Do not falter, destroy him." The soldiers tried again, their blasts filling the air, but every shot dissolved against the throne's light, and every pulse of the throne grew stronger when Elias spoke. So Elias tried again, his voice louder now. "Really, all of this for one seat? Don't you people have furniture stores?" The throne glowed so bright that the entire chamber trembled. The crowd burst into murmurs, some even laughed despite their fear. The Snuvva growled in rage. They had built their empire on silence, on fear, on obedience, but now in front of them laughter was breaking their power, and they could not stop it. Krazer stepped forward himself, his armor shining, his claws dripping with rage. "If the throne chooses you, human, then prove it. Face me." His challenge shook the room, because the Snuvva never lost duels. To refuse meant weakness, to accept meant certain death. Elias's heart pounded. He had never fought a warrior in his life. But the throne pulsed again, reminding him that this was not about claws or blades. This was about courage, about spirit. He took a deep breath and said, "All right, but fair warning. I fight dirty." The crowd gasped, the Snuvva hissed, but the throne pulsed like rolling laughter. Elias stepped into the center, his boots echoing, his hands empty. Krazer towered over him, claws ready to tear. The duel began. Krazer struck, first his claws slashing the air. Elias stumbled, dodging by instinct, barely staying alive. The crowd watched, certain it would end in blood, but Elias spoke between gasps. "You fight like my grandmother, and she's dead." The throne pulsed, sending another wave of light. Krazer stumbled, his strike missing its target. The crowd gasped again. Some aliens laughed despite themselves. Elias dodged another strike, rolling across the floor. He stood up, his breath heavy, his face pale, but he grinned and said, "If I win this, do I at least get a footrest?" The throne answered with light so bright the chamber shook. Krazer roared in fury, his pride collapsing under the sound of alien laughter. He swung with all his strength, but the throne's pulse shook him back. His claws cracked against the floor, sparks flying. The crowd now cheered, not for Krazer, but for the human. Elias raised his voice, his courage growing. "You see, the problem with you Snuvva is simple. You take yourselves way too seriously." The throne's hum turned into a booming wave. The Snuvva soldiers fell to their knees, their weapons useless. Krazer tried one last time, roaring with fury, but The throne pulsed one final surge, blasting him across the chamber. He crashed against the wall, his armor shattered, his pride broken. The chamber erupted with gasps and whispers. Elias stood shaking, his chest rising and falling. He had not won with fists, he had not won with strength, he had won with words, with laughter, with the one power the throne demanded. The crowd now looked at him with awe and fear. The throne pulsed brighter than ever, its symbols glowing like fire. It had chosen its champion, and it had proven that even the strongest empire could fall to a single laugh. The galaxy had witnessed a showdown unlike any other, and the war for the throne was no longer about strength but about humanity. The galactic showdown had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The chamber was silent after the clash. Supreme Voice Krazer lay broken against the wall, his armor shattered, his pride destroyed. The Snuvva soldiers lowered their weapons, their claws trembling, their courage gone. The throne still glowed, brighter than ever, filling the room with warmth and power. Elias stood at its center, shaking, his clothes torn, his chest rising and falling. He was not a warrior, not a king, not a priest, yet he was still standing. The throne pulsed gently, almost as if it was waiting for him to speak. The crowd of aliens watched, holding their breath, their eyes wide with awe and fear. Elias looked at them, his voice soft. "I'm not here to rule you," he said. "I'm not here to control you." The throne pulsed, the symbols across its surface glowing brighter. "But maybe," Elias continued, "I can remind you of something you've forgotten." The visions returned, floating above the throne like light and smoke. They showed wars, endless battles, empires crushing empires. But then, the visions shifted, showing humans laughing around fire, laughing in hunger, laughing in pain, laughing in hope. The aliens gasped. They had never seen power like this. Power that came not from fear, but from joy. The throne pulsed stronger, projecting the sound of soft laughter through the chamber. It was not cruel, not mocking, but gentle, like the sound of life itself. Elias smiled weakly, his voice trembling but steady. "You think power is fear. You think power is silence, but it isn't." He pointed at the throne, its light wrapping around him like a crown of fire. "Real power is giving others the courage to laugh even when the universe is against them." The Snuvva hissed from the shadows, humiliated. They had ruled with fear, and now fear had been broken by a single man's words. Their leader groaned, trying to rise, but his voice was weak. "No, the galaxy will not follow laughter." Elias turned to him, his eyes calm, his smile faint. "Then listen closely," he said. And with that he told one final joke. A simple joke. Nothing grand, nothing clever, but human. The words echoed across the chamber. The aliens stared, their faces frozen for a moment, and then one by one they laughed. The Zarek warriors, the Druktal scientists, even the smallest traders in the back. The laughter spread like fire. It was nervous at first, then stronger, then unstoppable. It filled the chamber, echoing through the broken station, rolling into the void of space. The throne pulsed with every laugh, brighter and brighter. The Snuvva tried to resist, but even some of their soldiers began to smile. They had been taught only fear, only silence. But laughter is a seed. Once planted, it grows, and now it grew inside them, breaking their chains. The throne shook, the walls of the station trembling. Its symbols flared, sending beams of light into the sky. The energy raced across the stars, through ships, through systems. The whole galaxy felt it. The sound of laughter carried through the void. Worlds paused in their wars. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Children laughed without knowing why. Elders smiled without reason. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt something it had forgotten. It felt joy. The throne's glow wrapped around Elias, lifting him gently. It was not crowning him as a ruler, but as a messenger. It whispered without words, "This is your gift, not for yourself, but for all." And then it placed him back on the floor, safe, steady, alive. The crowd fell silent, their eyes filled with awe. They had seen empires rise and fall, but never had they seen a man change the galaxy with a joke. The throne had chosen, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. Elias took a deep breath, his smile faint but real. "I'm not a king," he said. "I'm not a conqueror. I'm just human." The throne pulsed one last time, filling the room with light so bright it felt like day. And then it grew quiet, still glowing but calm, as if satisfied. It had made its choice, and the galaxy would remember it forever. The Snuvva fled, their empire shaken, their pride broken. The other species left in silence, whispering of what they had seen. They did not understand it fully, but they knew the galaxy was no longer the same. A human had changed it, not with war but with laughter. Elias stood alone by the throne, his heart heavy but warm. He did not know what the future would bring, but he knew this. The galaxy had heard the joke that shook the stars, and from that day on, nothing would ever be the same. The throne pulsed softly, almost like a smile, and the galaxy, for the first time in ages, smiled with it.